everybody? Thanks for tuning into the Hard Doc Life Vodcast. It's your host, Savon Foster, coming live from College Station, Texas. So it's about that season. Everybody's going to visit their prospective graduate schools. So for anyone watching and you've been accepted, congratulations from the bottom of my heart. Sorry about that. From the bottom of my heart, this is a huge accomplishment for you, for your family. I just want to tell you that you did something huge, you did something great. Keep grinding, keep going. And pretty much, if you've been admitted, ideally your university would have a prospective students weekend or prospective students visit. The purpose of this video is to talk about my 5 tips that I give to folks when they go and visit their prospective graduate program, what to do to really get a feel for the environment, get a feel for the program, and ultimately get a feel for the city that they'll be moving to and that they'll be living in. So if this is something that interests you, definitely tune in. If you know anyone who's been accepted and they have a visit coming up and you find these 5 tips to be valuable, go ahead, share it with them. And as always, like, share, subscribe so you can stay up to date with everything that's been going on with my video. I appreciate it. Let's get to it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, like I said, so this video is going to focus on the 5 tips that I would give any student going into their prospective student visit. So these are tips that I wish I knew before I started my visits, and things that I personally implement whenever I visit any university that I've been admitted to. Obviously, I couldn't visit every university. There's a money crunch, there's a time crunch, there's conflicting schedules. But for the ones that I'm able to visit, I made sure that I follow all of these tips. And honestly, now that I'm here in College Station, and College Station is very different from the areas that I've grown up in, the areas that I lived in for my undergrad and for my master's, I would say that all the research and preparation I did early on is key into why I'm able to enjoy my experience now. So without further ado, tip number 1 is to dedicate at least 2 hours to explore campus like a current student. So what I mean by explore campus like a current student, that means just regular, whatever you wear on a typical day-to-day, put that on, walk around campus. I would also say if you tend to wear professional attire like on a daily basis, you can go ahead and wear that. The reason I say that is because as an admissions counselor, as a former admissions counselor, and someone who just understands that dynamic, typically when people are visiting campus, everyone knows and they're typically on their best behavior. Like, it's almost to the point to where my undergrad institution, I don't know if it was pure happenstance, and anybody from Winston watching this, they know. Anytime we had anything big going on campus, any people coming through, our cafeteria was on another level. I'm talking about like chicken wings on top of chicken wings, like the best food. Even the lines move fast, and I don't know how the lines move fast. Like, it was just perfect. Like, there were anything that you would expect to go wrong in any cafeteria. Nothing ever went wrong whenever we had a large group of visitors coming. Now, that could just be pure happenstance, or that could be orchestrated by the university. I like to believe it's pure happenstance, but I wouldn't be surprised, and that's the same thing with Pitt. Whenever we had huge student groups come on the campus while I was an admissions counselor at Pitt, the weather really wasn't bad. Even when we had winter events or things in the spring when you would expect either snow or rain, it'll be like a fresh snow maybe from like 1 or 2 days before, and then it just looks real nice, real picturesque before you get that Pittsburgh sludge. Or even if it's rain, it's a light drizzle. It's never like a downpour. So I don't know, it's just something in the universe. Whenever there's a big visit coming, people know, the university knows, even the weather knows. So I would say just try to blend in and look like a regular student. Go to the cafeteria, go to the student union. If there's different like programs and things going on campus, you can definitely do that. Or if you want, you could reach out to a current student in the program who's somewhat active on campus. You can just go explore with them. I think that's the best way for you to feel the vibe and feel the environment. A lot of people always say that as a graduate student, you're pretty much stuck in 1 to 2 buildings. You really don't spend too much time on campus. While that may be true in most perspectives, the fact that you're still on campus, you're walking around, and if you're a graduate and if you're a teaching assistant or a research assistant, you may be interacting with undergrads and other individuals across the campus. So it is in my opinion, important to spend more time in that environment to get to know and learn the culture, and just try to start building those relationships to see if this is somewhere that you can see yourself navigating as a person, as a student, as a professional, as opposed to just focusing on go to class, go home, go to class, go home, because it's going to come to points to where you want to do work in your office. It's going to come to points to where there's events on campus, to where there's festivities, there's games. Ultimately, I say that you need to experience what the campus has to offer at least once during your entire graduate experience. If you're there longer for a PhD like me, you definitely need to enjoy it more. That's one thing that I regret. My first semester I didn't go to any football games, and this semester I'm going to basketball games, hanging out on campus, going to different events, because I need to have a life outside of school. Alright, so second tip is, I would encourage everyone to prepare your LinkedIn prior to visiting, or to create a LinkedIn prior to your visit, as well as just make sure all of your social media is up to date. And the reason I say that is because if you're coming from undergrad, it's perfectly fine if you don't have business cards made. It's perfectly fine even if you're on your master's and you don't have business cards made. I think for me, I had business cards made during my master's and it was pointless. I never handed them out to anybody, but everybody, they were able to find me on LinkedIn. And typically after I sent an email from my university email that was connected to my LinkedIn, people found me on LinkedIn. So I would just say make sure everything is up to date, make sure it's polished nicely. Creating a LinkedIn profile is extremely easy as long as you have an updated resume and a working email address. You're pretty much plugging over a lot of your resume information. I would say you can start tailoring your LinkedIn account towards your professional goals, towards your academic goals. I think for me, I still kept some of my previous jobs in higher education, and I've also done some community work. I keep those on my LinkedIn. I believe my work in the community is important, and it's a reflection of who I am as a professional, so that's why I keep it there. But I think that's just a great way to have almost like a virtual business card. And then your social media, this is mostly Twitter if you do tweet. I think that's also a great way to have an informal connection to faculty members, to potential classmates and colleagues. For me, social media is great. I'm able to see, personality. Like, I think LinkedIn is very nice and buttoned up and proper, but Twitter, you can actually be yourself a little bit. Like, anybody who knows me, they know that I'm really into sports, especially at NBA. And there's actually a faculty member who I've worked with, and me and him, we joke and talk about the NBA all the time. If there's a bad call, we're talking about it. If there's a trade going on, we're talking about it. So we get to have those dope conversations that I personally try to keep away from LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is very straight and narrow, very buttoned up and down. If anything, I more so use it for connections, and then I reach out to those individuals via email, things like that. So mine is very bare bones, but it has enough content for you to see who I am as an individual. And I would say, even afterwards, just keep it up to date. And stay connected with those individuals, even if it is, they post that they have an accomplishment, like it, send them a congratulations. That's a great way to just keep that line of communication. And if something comes up, just go ahead and have that conversation with them. Third tip, number 3, probably the most important, because you get the most bang for your buck doing this, and that's explore the area around campus and the city you'll live in. So for me, going into Pitt, and I love Pitt with all my heart, but I honestly thought Pitt was a big gated university out in the suburbs. Driving into the campus, I kept wondering why my GPS took me like through downtown. So I'm driving through downtown, I'm like, where's the university? And then the actual university address takes you to the cathedral on campus. So it's this huge cathedral that you see in all the marketing for Pitt. And then that's when I realized this university is not where I thought it was. And that really impacted my entire apartment search, my entire exploration of the city. And that, not in a bad way. It was just, I honestly thought the university was out in the suburbs. I thought that I would have to get an apartment out in the suburbs because I like to be walking distance, biking distance, or a bus, like a short bus ride away. I don't like transfers. I don't like any of that. That really just depends on how the public transportation system is set up in that city. Pittsburgh has a pretty decent nightlife. Pittsburgh is a pretty large and lively city. So the buses run until some buses run until 3 in the morning. So I can catch transfers. I'm not on a huge time crunch. But if I was in a more rural area or just a smaller city, I might not have that luxury with the public transportation system. So exploring around campus, that's really simple. You can just drive around. You can get a pretty good feel for the neighborhood and community around the campus. Going to LSU, University of Houston, and A&M, visiting those campuses to consider my and NC State, sorry, for my PhD. I did drive around campus. I spent a lot of time looking at, the types of houses, the distribution of the students. Honestly, I'm a huge real estate and moving nerd, so I read a lot of blogs. My go-to tip is wherever that university is located, or if there's a major city near that university, just go to Google and type in living in and type in that city. And usually there's a bunch of websites that'll say 10 facts about living here, 15 things you need to know before moving here, 22 things about this. And then if you go to YouTube, there's people raving and ranting about their experience there. For me, that's what I did with Pittsburgh. I just Googled living in Pittsburgh, and there was a list on Moboto.com. And they pretty much listed 22 things about living in Pittsburgh. That was pretty dope. That gave me an idea of the flavor of the city a little bit. Also did the same thing for College Station. The dope part about College Station was that College Station was even better than what was there. From what I've been told, this city updates and rebrands itself and becomes a whole new city every 3 to 5 years. So what I read was pretty dated, maybe 2012, 2013. That College Station is not this College Station. I like that College Station. This one, 100 times better. Then I also look at city data. City data is more for the adult things. So looking at wealth distribution within the city, looking at racial distribution, crime distribution, those types of things, because I don't want to end up living in an area that I don't like because I didn't do the necessary research. And again, I'm not saying go and look at apartments and those types of things, but at least explore the area, get an idea of where you are, and definitely you can ask a local. You can go into any corner store, you can go into any grocery store, just strike up a conversation with someone and say, hey, do you know what this neighborhood is? Do you know the proper name for it? For me, I'm in College Station. I live in the Churchill neighborhood, which is a historically black neighborhood. Didn't know that, but it's dope. I always wondered why there were so many older black folks here. But then again, when I lived in Pittsburgh, I lived at the intersection of East Liberty and Bloomfield. East Liberty is the historically black neighborhood, and Bloomfield is Little Italy. And I loved both of those areas. The only problem is that I didn't know Pittsburgh was going through this huge boom of gentrification, and that just rose the cost of living in that area. Part of the reason why I chose to live there outside of the culture of that area was the fact that it was on the bus line and it was affordable. And now after I left, the prices have skyrocketed. Looking at the cost of my apartment when I first looked at it, it was $500. When I applied for it, maybe 2 months later, it was increased to $575, and now it's nearing $700. But I knew that this building would be revamped. All the units around mine have been revamped, and then also some insurance folks came in while I was living there, and then they did an assessment of the apartment building. So I know that one, the apartment looks amazing, and then two, it's a completely different animal. So I'm excited because I like seeing neighborhoods develop, but it definitely bothers me because I know a lot of folks will be displaced. So I will say, be mindful of where you're living, the climate of. What's wrong, Bubba? Calm down. Sorry, y'all, that was my dog. But I definitely encourage everyone to be mindful of where you're living, the culture of that area, any changes that you might be able to foresee in that area, and then just have conversations with individuals. That's the best way for you to learn that area. While I went to go visit LSU, I talked to a lot of Baton Rouge residents. I got a really good feel for the area. Personally, my family, they're from like rural Mississippi, so I feel like that's one far end of the spectrum, and there's multiple ends. There's like rural deep south, and then there's like rural mountain areas, and then there's like rural desert. So the rural like deep south, I'm perfectly fine with that. That's normal. I've spent many summers in Meridian, Mississippi, so there aren't too many like rural universities or major universities that are in like very small areas that would bother me. So being in Baton Rouge, transitioning from Pittsburgh, really didn't bother me that much. It actually seemed like a pretty dope opportunity, and I definitely like the culture and history of Louisiana, specifically like the Black culture and history surrounded around the state of Louisiana, particularly Baton Rouge. And I mean, if you do have the time, definitely check out apartments. That's a great way to kind of see how things are laid out. In Pittsburgh, so many apartments were set up the same. There were these really large family houses. Again, this is how like the culture and history of the area impacts like housing opportunities. So in Pittsburgh, it's these extremely large family houses where it's the husband and wife, their parents, their children, and then maybe even their siblings. So essentially maybe 4 families could live in this house. So you have a huge living room, maybe even 2 living rooms, one pretty large kitchen, about 2 to 3 bathrooms, and then 4 or 5 bedrooms. And in the basement, they have what's called a Pittsburgh bathroom. So pretty much in the basement, it goes at a slight slope, and there's a drain pipe below. And pretty much this is for anybody who worked in the coal mines. They would go change their clothes down there, take a shower down there, so they don't track dirt and mud through the home. And then you go upstairs, and there's typically like a small like a toilet in the corner. So that's a Pittsburgh bathroom or a Pittsburgh basement. There were a lot of those, and I knew I didn't want to live there. I wanted my own apartment, so I had to find some of those. And with space being limited, my apartment was pretty small, about 550 square feet, but that really didn't bother me too much. So if you have time, definitely look at places. Depending on where you are, the history and the culture of that area, that might impact the type of housing that's available. Obviously, if you go to New York, everything is extremely small. You go to LA, everything's extremely small. You go to Georgia, things are a lot bigger. But one thing about Georgia, for some reason, they don't have basements. A lot of homes don't have basements in Georgia. So there's all these subtle differences that can impact your living situation depending on how you want to live. So tip number 3 is explore around campus, explore the city you'll live in, and if you have time, definitely look at apartments. If you don't, at least explore the neighborhoods to get an idea for it, so when you do your apartment search, you can at least pinpoint specific neighborhoods. All right, tip number 4, do your research. And by research, I mean look over the program, look over the courses offered, look over any subtle, like any fine details. For me, coming into my PhD at A&M, I did so much research on the curriculum because I wanted to have a good balance of higher education and sport management courses, and I wanted to make sure that I could structure my courses around my interest and my career goals. And luckily, our curriculum adopted more qualitative courses. So since I'm a qualitative researcher, I have the ability to do so. And then we also have a wide range of courses that fit my interests, both in sociology and in higher education. So I was very upfront about the curriculum offerings, about how I could shape my academic experience. But then I also asked questions about, I ask questions more towards current students, and then that's the second part of doing your research is reaching out to other students that may be in the program and talking to them to see how they feel about the program, or the pros and the cons, everything. I feel like that's a great way for them to be honest and for you to have an understanding of your advisor, of other faculty members, because nobody wants to go into a course and wait for the first assignment to really get an idea of what that faculty member wants from you. And additionally, the more research you do, the more questions you have about funding. Everybody loves money. Everybody needs money for school. Even if you're fully funded, there's fees associated with moving, there's fees associated with getting set. Depending on when you get there and how your university operates, you might not receive money until later during that time. So I'd say definitely do your research. Some things that might not be mentioned up front are fellowships, scholarships, assistantships, and post-grad statistics. So for fellowships, typically faculty members and programs are really good at communicating this, but you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know to look for it or how to look for it, you need to ask these questions. So maybe there is a diversity scholarship or fellowship that you qualify for. Maybe this is something that you want to see, if there's a track record of students in your program getting it, what you need to do to obtain that. Assistantships. So for me, my assistantship is I am a graduate teaching assistant. That's pretty much it. There aren't any other opportunities for me to receive funding for my program. And I'm perfectly fine with that because it's teaching me the skills I need to be a faculty member. So you can ask about assistantships, particularly when I went to higher education. I was very adamant about getting an assistantship either in admissions, career services, academic advising, or athletics. Those were the 4 areas I wanted to go to, and I didn't want to go anywhere else. So, hey Bubba, I'm sorry y'all, my dog just wants attention. So pretty much I was very, very upfront and determined about these things, and it actually worked in my favor. I received an assistantship my final year my second and final year at Pitt, being an admissions counselor. So I had the opportunity to do the things that I love, and if another opportunity comes along while I'm here at A&M to volunteer, contribute to another area, that's definitely something that I'm looking forward to. And then finally, tip number 5. This is the big one, y'all. Take advantage of one-on-one time with students and faculty. Now, first, focusing on faculty, what you want to do is you want to talk to faculty members. First, you want to do step 4. You want to do your research. So if you're going into your doctoral program, 9 times out of 10, you've already identified a faculty member who you want to work with. However, during my experience visiting certain programs, it was almost an open pool of faculty advisors, and they got to pick 1 or 2 students who they wanted to advise. The best thing I would advise is for you to do your research on the faculty members that you want to work with, understand their work that they do, and based off the work that they do, try to have a conversation with them on how you view that topic, how you view the field overall, and to gauge how your relationship will be with them. What type of advisor are they? What type of faculty member are they? How would they describe the culture of the program? What would they say are their favorite parts about the program, and what are things that they want to change? I'm very big at not doing a pro and con for things that you can change and manipulate and just have a different experience with. Pros and cons are more so, this is hard, this is how it is, this is the good, this is the bad. But I typically have a pro delta, and delta meaning change. So all the things I like and all the things that I would change, or that I could change. I would say have that conversation with faculty members. And then on the opposite end, I would talk to students to get a really fair, honest, unadulterated response on how these faculty members are, how they communicate, pros and cons, what they like, what they dislike, pretty much what they like about the campus, the program, the college, whatever it is. I would say have those conversations with them. Ask about nightlife, ask about social life, ask about the campus climate. Do they feel safe on campus? Do they feel included on campus? Are there resources that they want, that they need? All of those things. I feel like that's a great way to get the student perspective, because these are individuals who are in your position, who are in the position you're going to be in, especially if they're closer to the dissertation or in their dissertation phase, but these are also students that have been in your position, meaning an incoming student, first year, second year, third year, and so on. So definitely reach out to these students. And if you have the time, you can even reach out to former students again through LinkedIn. You can reach out to former students, get their experience, get a better understanding of their experience and see, what the program has done for them, the good, the bad, the ugly. So those are my 5 tips for prospective students going to visit the schools that they've been admitted to. Again, congratulations on this. This is an amazing opportunity. I wish nothing but the best for you. I hope that your visit is full of good times, great connections, awesome food. That's one thing I forgot to say. Every visit I went to had amazing food. And I'll be honest, the higher education program at Louisiana State University, the traditional down home bayou food I got to eat. I had boudin. I ate a lot of boudin, gumbo. It was just so much. Beignets. And I know that my accent, how I'm trying to pronounce it, is just all bad. Please don't judge me. But LSU probably had the best food out of all the universities I've visited. And, just like I said, have fun. This is a great opportunity. Don't let imposter syndrome take over. You've been admitted. They want you here. They value you. They value your ideas. So again, have fun. Take everything in. Follow these 5 tips. If you know anybody else who's visiting programs, if you're applying to graduate programs, anything like this, just keep this in mind. I feel like this will help you tremendously. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Savon Foster, the bald-headed brainiac, coming live from College Station, Texas. Like, share, subscribe. Tell your mom, your dad, your cousin, brother, uncle, classmates, the neighbor you see when y'all go get mail. Tune in next time. Catch you later.